Hey, I'm Matt Helm, one of the design teachers here at Treehouse. For today's workshop, we'll be creating our very own custom icon font. Custom fonts have become quite popular in the web industry for a couple of reasons. Improved browser speed, we don't have to deal with the resolution as if they are vector graphics, and they're easy to reuse in other projects and share with others. Also, we're able to style them in the browser because they are fonts. We're going to approach our build in this order. We're going to sketch our icons, and then we're going to import the images into Illustrator and vectorize them. Then we're going to export them to SVG graphics. Finally, we're going to import those SVG graphics and import them into icomoon.io, which is an application that allows us to output the icon font. So with that said, let's get started with sketching our icons. So you'll notice the tools I'm using for this sketching process is just a basic piece of paper that I got from the printer and a basic pencil, which is an HB pencil with an eraser. Nothing fancy here. All we want to do is sketch our icons out, and that's it. So the icons I'm going to be creating are for an admin or for any other place that you would use edit, delete, settings, or search. These are pretty basic icons that are used throughout the web. So my first step here is to create 4 boxes for each one of my icons. And when sketching, all I want to do is just get a really rough shape of what I want to make the icon look like. So just basic shapes here. So nothing real finalized, just real rough. So the first one is going to be the edit. So we'll just label this edit, and then we'll have a delete, and then settings, and finally we'll have the search icon, and we'll put that down here on the bottom. So for our edit, I usually like to use a pencil with a piece of paper. So all I'm going to do here is sketch out the outline of a pencil. And being that we're doing icons, you want to keep these just as minimal as possible so when we shrink them down, they're still clear on what the image is. If we get too detailed, it doesn't really work. So as you see here, we just have a piece of paper with the pencil behind it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use these lines or circles in the final layout. I'm just going to go ahead and put them in there. So here we have our edit, and then next we have delete. And a good visual representation of delete is a trash can. So we'll go ahead and create a little trash can icon, with basically just using a square here at the base, a rectangle, and then the handle. So that works for delete. And for settings, I like to use a gear, so which is basically a small circle in the middle, a larger circle on the outside. And like I said, just keep this as rough as possible. You know, that's why we're going to use Illustrator to finalize these. And for my gear, all right, so for the gear, I'm going to use these little squares that come off the circle to indicate it's a gear. Make sure these are lined up. Perfect. And for search, we're just going to use the good old magnifying glass, which is basically a circle in the top left with a 45-degree angled rectangle going down the side. We're probably going to want to make this circle here a little bit thicker. And you can shade these in too if you want. Like this will be solid. Our delete here will be solid. And this is just so when we remember, when we go into Illustrator, we remember to fill these in. Same thing with our gear, which is pretty much already filled in, so that's fine. And this one can be a little bit tricky. So what we'll probably do is create either a knockout with the paper and fill it in, or use a thick line to indicate the paper in the background. And then we're able to fill the pencil in, like so. Also, too, we can put this tab up in the corner to show that it is paper, that it can be folded over. And that's about it. That's our quick sketch for our icons that we're going to be creating. So the next step, what I'm going to do is take my phone and take a quick screenshot of it, email it to myself so I can use that as a template in Illustrator. Now you can use a scanner. I just find this to be a lot faster, and the resolution's usually very good. So with my phone, I'm going to go ahead and get a nice photo here. Then I'm going to email it to myself. And then when I go ahead and move over to my inbox, I have my sketch here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the sketch, drop the image right on my desktop. Now with the photo that I just took with my phone on my desktop, I'm going to go ahead and drag that into Illustrator. Go ahead and make this full screen. Now you'll notice the artboard's overlaying the photo. So my first step here is to grab the artboard tool, which we can grab with the shortcut keys Shift-O, zoom out just a bit, and then double click on the photo, and then it'll wrap the artboard around the photo. Perfect. I'm going to open up the layers panel, and with the layer selected, I'm going to select the drop down on the top right, select template. It then drops the opacity and locks out the photo. So we can just use that as our base template. And then our next step is to create a new layer. And we'll label this layer icons. And our first icon here is the edit. So I'm going to grab the pen tool and first outline where the paper would be. And I'm going to get rid of the fill. And with the stroke, I'm going to change the color of the stroke to a pink color, because this allows us to view it a lot better. Becomes more visible over the white than the black color. So with the pink selected, I'm going to go ahead and open up the stroke panel and bump up the weight on this path to say, do 36 point, and I'm going to show more options in the stroke panel. So I'm able to round the corners. And next I'm going to create our pencil here. Now you notice our stroke here is pretty thick, as we just used 36 point on the outline of the paper. So what I'm going to do is switch that to the fill. And our pencil isn't looking exactly symmetrical. So what I'm going to do is delete that. And then in the tools panel, I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, make a rectangle about the same length as the pencil here. And I'm going to grab the pen tool, and with the plus key, I can add an anchor point in the middle, grab the direct selection tool while holding Shift to keep it lined up to the middle, and pull it up, and you can see we have a nice symmetrical pencil now. So while holding Shift, let's go ahead and rotate this to a 45-degree angle, and we now have our edit icon. So all I'm going to do here is line our paper up so the top and right side are in the center. And you can see it pops right there. It snaps to grid. And just move this up just a little bit. And I'm going to move this down just a bit. Perfect. Now, if we want, we can go ahead and split this so you can see the eraser here on the pencil. So let's switch that path I just made with the stroke color to white. So I'm going to create a new swatch here, a white one. Okay, and let's bump that weight up to 36. We'll bring that in. Perfect. So there we have our edit icon. Nice. So next we're going to do our delete icon, which is the trash can. So I'm going to simply use the rectangle tool here and create the lid and switch this to a fill, and we'll use that pink swatch. Now I'm going to duplicate this by holding Alt and dragging down, and then shrink that in just a bit while holding the Option key. Pull it up and just adjust it to where it looks right. Whatever looks right to you. So for me, that's looking pretty good. I can drop down one side just a bit, maybe if there's a shadow. And next we got the lid. So I'm going to duplicate this rectangle. Like so. So we have the same height here with the lid and then the handle. And then we'll pull this out, drop it down, and we'll use the fill of white. All right, so let's grab these and let's center them. So let's grab the align. We want to make sure we're aligning to the selection and not the artboard. And let's center align those. Perfect. All right. And next we have the settings icon, which we have the gear. So we're going to go ahead and pull out the ellipse tool here. And we'll make a large circle. What we can do here is switch the fill to stroke, bump up the stroke to say 65, and then we're going to align the stroke to the inside. So that's how we can get the voided circle in the middle. And let's grab our rectangle tool. And now we can make the little squares that come off the end. And we can keep them aligned by making the long rectangle here, copying, and then pasting it in place. So that's Control-C to copy, Control-Shift-V to paste in place. Hold Shift to rotate, grab both of them, copy and paste those into place, and then rotate those. And then by selecting all of the objects for the settings, we can then open up let's open up the Align panel. And with Align to key selection selected, let's center all of our objects and align them to the middle, the horizontal align center and the vertical align center. Perfect. And then let's grab that circle that we created, bring it to the front, and let's give it a fill of white. And you can see there's our knockout. Perfect. Let's go to Object, Path, Outline, Stroke, and it'll turn this path into an object. Perfect. So there is our settings icon. And last we have our search icon. So again, grab the ellipse tool, And we'll keep the white fill, and for the stroke, we'll use the pink. And let's bump up the weight on that to 36. And grab the rectangle tool. Let's make the handle here. So let's switch the fill and stroke, get rid of the stroke, so we have a pink fill. And a good way to make sure these are aligned is we can actually center them like this, select both, and then rotate. There we go. And there's our search icon. So let's take a look at all of our icons here that we created and make sure that they appear to be within the same family, meaning they all look very similar. Because as you'll notice, the path or the stroke here has the weight of 36, as does this paper. So those everything's looking pretty good here. The only thing I would probably do is shrink down this settings icon. Okay. And everything's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's select all. Let's turn all of these paths into objects. So path, outline stroke. Now they're all fills. And select again. And with the Pathfinder panel here, what we're going to want to do is merge everything. And then ungroup all of our objects. Select all of the white, which we can do by selecting one of the white fills, going to select same fill and stroke. And let's delete those. And it looks like we have a little bit of a knockout here that didn't quite get knocked out. So let's go ahead and what we can do is grab the scissor tool, which has the shortcut key C, and delete that. And it looks like it did it with the negative. So we'll have to do it one more time. Let's get rid of that. And grab the pen tool by selecting P, then select the minus key. We can get rid of that anchor point, then this final anchor point here. Perfect. So now everything on the screen here should have the fill of the pink, and it does. So when we select all, by selecting Command A, you can see the fill color here is all pink. So if we were to go ahead and change that to black, it then changes. Perfect. So we have our icons. It's now time to export our icons. So what we want to do is wrap artboards around each one of these icons so we're able to export it as an SVG. Because currently when we save for web, we can only export to PNG, JPEG, or GIF, which are all pixel-based images. And we want a vector-based image, thus SVG. So again, we're going to wrap artboards around each one of the icons and then save out each artboard as an image. So to do that, we're going to group together each one of our icons. So we have our edit icon, then our delete icon, settings, and our search icon. Perfect. So next, let's go ahead and clean up our workspace here and get rid of some of these panels. Go ahead and pop our layers over here. And we'll press Shift-O and double click on the first icon. Single click on the rest of them. Perfect. So now we've wrapped artboards around each one of these icons. Now, what I'm noticing right now is the search icon is just a little bit bigger than all the other ones. So what I want to do is just scale that down just a bit. And then again, grab our artboard and snap it to that icon. Perfect. Now when we open up the artboards panel, you can see we have 4 different artboards. So let's go ahead and label those. So the first one we have is pencil, and the next one, which if we double click on it, it'll zoom into it. So this is the delete. And the third one, which is the settings. And the last one, which is search. We'll zoom back out. Perfect. All of our icons are grouped together, and we have artboards wrapped around them. So now it's time to save them out as SVGs. We can do that by going to File, Save. And what I'll do is create a new folder on the desktop labeled Icons. And then in where it says Format, let's select SVG. And right below it, it'll say Use Artboards. So we want to use all of the artboards. So make sure Use Artboards is selected, All is selected, and Save As. Let's just give this the name of Icon. And what it's going to do is it's going to save out Icon and then dash whatever we name the artboard. So let's go ahead and save that. And by default, we're given SVG profiles SVG 1.1, and that's fine. All of these presets are just fine to save out. So let's hit OK. And let's jump back to our desktop. And where it says icons, you can see we have icon delete, icon pencil, icon search, icon settings. Perfect. So now we're ready to take our icons and bring them into icomoon.io to create our icon font. So again, let's just recap what we just did. So we sketched our font, we then brought that sketch into Illustrator, created our font, and now next what we want to do is grab all of our icons, bring them into iCoMoon, and then export them as a font. So we're going to go to icomoon.io, and then we're going to select App at the top next to Home. Now, iCoMoon also allows us to use predetermined fonts. So there's already fonts in here that have all the icons that you can select from to create your own font. But what we're going to do is create our own. So we're going to use the icons that we just created. So let's go to Start the App and import icons. And let's go to the desktop to our icons folder. Let's select all of the icons we just created. It will then import them, resize them, and give them padding. So as you can see here, we have our settings, search, edit, which is the pencil, and then the delete. And like I said before, all of these fonts here, or all these icons here are all preloaded with iCoMoon. We're not going to use any of those right now. So let's select all of our icons, and let's select the edit. So now when we select our icon, you can see it says icon settings for the tags. Let's just change that to settings. And then we can use the arrow here to go over to the next icon, which is search. And then pencil, we'll switch that to edit. Hit next, and then we have delete. And that's it. And it automatically auto-saves everything. So, perfect. We have all of our icons that we want selected. Down the bottom here where it says font with the arrow, we hover, it says generate font. Let's select that. And only one more change here with the preferences. Let's get rid of this icon prefix, delete that. And for the font name, let's name this Workshop Icons. And we'll X that out, and then we're given the option to download. So we'll select download. So let's go to our desktop here, here you can see we have our fonts here in the zip file. So let's go ahead and unzip that. And let's open that up. And inside you'll see we have this index.html. So let's go ahead and open that in the browser. And you can see we have our icons here that we created from Illustrator and imported them, and now they are a font. Perfect. It's exactly what we wanted to do. And if you want to look at the code, you can simply open this up in a text editor, like say Sublime. And now when we scrub through the code here, you can see that they are using not only the class here, so we have the settings, search, edit, and delete. Let's just open up our browser here. So there's two different sets. We have our class names, which are down here, which we just looked at with the code, which is our settings, search, edit, and delete. And then it throws in a space, and then it labels it delete right here. And then on the top here, we just have the icons as they are standalone, and that is actually using a data icon attribute inside of the div. So when we go to the CSS, you can see we have our data icon attribute with the pseudo class before. And what it's doing is it's throwing in the icon directly before the class. And then down below, it does the same thing, but it uses the class that we gave the icon prefix for. So it was settings, search, edit, and delete. And that about wraps up our workshop for creating a custom icon font. Again, I'm Matt Helm. If you'd like to know more about Adobe Illustrator, check out Illustrator Foundations here at Treehouse. See you next time.